Hello. Hello, police headquarters. This is Evan Folger, Dragonhead Lighthouse. Better get over here as soon as you can. There's been a drowning. A girl named Kate Bosworth. I pulled her sister out. The other is a goner. Yeah, and bring a doctor with me.
I think the doctor's still inside with Mrs. Emerson. She'll be coming out of that sedative soon. I'll need all the facts for the police record, so suppose you
I told you all the facts. I looked out, and there was the boat heading for the rocks. Sail was all torn to shreds.
Could you see which one of them was handling the boat?
How could I tell in a sea like that? I couldn't tell them apart anyways.
When you got out to them, were you able to see the body of the other one, or was it under the boat?
I never did see the body. Coast Guard ain't found it yet either. They never will.
Mrs. Emerson? Mrs. Emerson. It's all right, Mrs. Emerson. I'm Dr. Knowles from the village. Mrs. Emerson? Mrs. Emerson?
Mrs. Emerson. Mrs. Emerson. Why does he call me Mrs. Emerson? Bill. Bill. Bill.
She's opened her eyes. She's coming around.
Oh. Oh.
There, Mrs. Emerson. Everything's all right. We just want you to keep very warm and quiet.
I tried to pull her back. I tried.
We know, Mrs. Emerson. Evans saw you. He knows you did everything you could.
No.
I'm the police chief, Mrs. Emerson. Now, your sister came up to visit you yesterday, didn't she?
I don't...
She's confused. Don't you bother her with that stuff now. Mrs. Emerson, ever since it happened, you've been lying here crying for Bill over and over again. You keep saying, I tried to save her. Well, Bill ain't going to blame you, Mrs. Emerson. If the good Lord had wanted to take you instead of her, why, he'd have done it. So you get well and strong now, Mrs. Emerson, and be a good wife to Bill. She'd have wanted it that way.
Eben, Mr. Lindley's come.
Yeah. It's your cousin, Mrs. Emerson. He's come to see you.
Thank you. I won't talk to you very long, dear. I don't want to tire you. Can you understand me, Pat?
Freddie,
Bill is coming home. He just answered my wire. He arrives in New York by plane Friday.
by plane on Friday. Oh, Bill. Bill.
3 days ago, Patricia Emerson was drowned off Dragonhead Lighthouse, and her body never recovered. But as far as the world is concerned, the girl lost in the storm was Kate. Motivated by her love for Bill, overcome by the temptation to be his wife, Kate has assumed her dead sister's identity. At her home in New York, she and Freddie have just returned from the airport. With them is Bill Emerson.
You really shouldn't have bothered going to the airport, Pat.
Oh, of course I'd meet you, Bill. Don't be silly. You know, you've hardly said a word.
Well, there's not much to say. I'm terribly sorry about Kate.
I hope you don't mind if we stay here a few days so I could, straighten out some of the things.
Oh, I prefer to stay. I've got some work to do here in New York.
I think we could all do with a drink. Freddie?
No, not for me, Pat. I have an appointment.
Oh, but you simply can't leave us.
I'll drop around tomorrow.
You're being frightfully unsocial, Freddie.
Goodbye, Bill. Call me if there's anything I can do.
Thanks a lot for your help, Freddie. This really hit him, didn't it?
I know just how it feels. It's very strange for me without Kate. Would you like a scotch?
You know I drink bourbon, Pat.
Oh, yes, of course.
Kate is gone, but, somehow I just can't believe it.
I didn't know she meant so much to you.
We were very good friends. That doesn't mean that I was in love with her.
She knew that.
How do you know?
Oh, well, she told me just before the wedding. Bill, I'm so glad you're back.
There's nothing any different between us, Pat. I came back only because of Kate's death. As soon as you... Why, the astonishment. Now, don't try to pretend that you've forgotten.
Oh, no. No, of course I haven't forgotten. I only thought that perhaps...
I know you've been through a lot. That's why I didn't go directly to a hotel. It's unfortunate that the accident happened at this time, but I think that just as soon as you get Kate's affairs wound up, you'd better go to Reno and get it over.
Reno?
Pat, it was your idea as much as mine.
Oh, yes, of course. It's just... Bill, would you mind very much if I went to Boston tonight? I could come back later and straighten out Kate's things.
If you'd prefer.
And Bill?
Yes?
Could we let this divorce business ride for a while? I can't seem to think about it right now.
What's there left to think about?
I want another chance.
Do you think you deserve one?
Oh, maybe not, but I want it.
Well, that's the first honest thing you've said in months.
Let me try.
All right, Pat. You'll probably change your mind when you get to Boston, but in the meantime, we'll let it go at that.
Thank you, Bill. How long will you stay in New York?
Oh, I don't know. 2-3 days.
Be sure and wire me when you're coming. I'd like to have everything ready for you.
Yes. Yes, I'll wire you.
What?
Your ticket.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Tickets, please. Tickets.
Boston. I'm going to Boston. To Pat's home. How will I know? Little things, what rooms there are. What Pat used to do. The servants. I don't even know their names. I must be out of my mind. And for what? Bill's going to leave. What did Pat do to me? What did she do?